Preparing for war with NATO, Russia expands military presence near Finland. Zelenskyy names parties in upcoming Abu Dhabi talks, and why Europe needs direct contact with Russia. The latest news next. Russia is expanding its military infrastructure near the border with Finland. Such actions may indicate preparations for a potential conflict with NATO, according to a new report by the US-based Institute for the Study of War, RSW. According to RSW, Finland's national broadcaster published satellite images taken between June 2024 and October 2025. The images show active construction at the Russian military base Rybka in Petrozavodsk in Karelia, located about 175 kilometers from the Finnish border. As Finland's broadcaster notes, the Soviet-era garrison area had been largely abandoned since the early 2000s. However, it is now planned for use by the 44th Army Corps of the Leningrad Military District. A larger base and the military equipment depot are already operating at the site. In addition, satellite images from May and August 2025 indicate the construction of a new military town in Kandalaksha, Murmansk region, about 115 kilometers from the border with Finland. This concerns the Lubcha-Savin garrison, the construction of which Russia began in the winter of 2024 to 2025 for new artillery and engineering brigades. RSW recalls that it has previously recorded the expansion of Russian military infrastructure along the Finnish border. In 2024, Russia also restructured the Western Military District, creating the Leningrad and Moscow military districts, likely to strengthen strategic command in the northern direction and counter NATO. As part of these changes, the Russian military command formed the 44th Army Corps.
Russian officials, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, have previously directly threatened Finland, including by applying language that Russia has used falsely justify its invasions of Ukraine to Finland.
Russia prepares for war with NATO. Back in September 2025, Dutch Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmans said that the threats coming from Russia concern the entire Western world. Russia is shifting its economy onto a war footing, expanding weapons production, and increasingly mobilizing people to be ready for a war with NATO by 2030. RSW analysts believe that Moscow is intensifying its covert attacks against Europe and has already entered the zero phase of preparation for a possible war with NATO. Russia is actively strengthening its military presence near the Finnish border. Satellite images show large-scale construction of new infrastructure, including shelters for fighter jets, warehouses, and field camps. In addition, in September, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev threatened Finland using rhetoric that the Kremlin had previously employed to justify the invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced that a new round of trilateral talks involving Ukraine, the US, and Russia will take place this week in the United Arab Emirates. There was a report by our negotiating team. There is already an arrangement to hold a trilateral meeting at an appropriate level. This meeting will take place this week as planned on Wednesday and Thursday in the United Arab Emirates, as last time, Zelenskyy said. He added that he had spoken with National Security and Defense Council Secretary Rustem Umerov and scheduled a meeting for the following day to finalize the discussion framework and prepare for the talks.
On Monday evening, the team will already be en route to the negotiations. Many leaders from different countries are with us in this process, supporting Ukraine, and we coordinate virtually every day.
He also announced that February will see significant Ukrainian diplomatic activity, with contacts and meetings beginning as early as the following day. Zelenskyy expressed hope that the US would also be actively involved, particularly regarding measures to reduce attacks.
We expect the American side to be just as active, particularly when it comes to de-escalation measures, reducing strikes. Much depends on what the US can achieve so that people trust both the process and the outcomes, of course.
Russian attacks across Ukraine continue overnight, hitting civilians and critical infrastructure despite an alleged week-long truce. Ambassador of the European Union to Ukraine, Katerina Maternova, reported the ambassador emphasized that there is no ceasefire and that Russia is not honoring any agreements. She said that Russian forces launched 90 attack drones across Ukraine during the night. In Ukrainian's Dnipro city, a UAV struck a private home, killing 2 civilians. In Konotop, in the Sumy region, railway infrastructure was damaged, while explosions were reported in several other cities.
Does this look like a truce? Explosions, civilian deaths, destroyed energy facilities, and transport infrastructure. Today's attack is further proof that Russia does not respect agreements.
She added that Ukraine is currently facing severe cold, with many apartment buildings in Kyiv still without heating, following previous attacks on energy infrastructure. Most Ukrainians are also living with prolonged power outages.
Dear friends, hello from frozen Kiev. I came for a walk, well-dressed, into -14. That's in Kiev today and sunny. But I'm always reminded that there are hundreds of thousands of people in Kiev who have been struggling with no electricity, no heating in their homes, in their apartments. Last week in Podil, part of Kiev, a lady that survived the Holocaust died of the sub-zero temperatures. And in the European Union, we are trying to help. We brought over 400 generators last week, 500 more are on their way. But this is just a small help to this heroic nation that is being tested by the Russian attacks on the energy infrastructure, on railways, on their homes. Slava Ukraini!
French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has said that all financial assistance provided to Ukraine currently comes from Europe, while stressing that Paris has never ruled out dialogue with Russia. Reported by Barrot in an interview with the French newspaper Libération. Barrot explained that Europe now needs direct contact with Russia in order to defend its own interests.
Europeans, who are currently Ukraine's main financial and military backers, must have a channel to defend their interests without delegating this responsibility to anyone else.
Meanwhile, Barrot noted that, according to France's assessment, Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin is showing no real signs of willingness to move toward peace. He pointed to Russia's recent strikes on civilians as evidence, including the attack on the Barvinkova-Lviv Chop passenger train, which Barrot described as a war crime. In addition, he reaffirmed France's support for Ukraine during the war.
Today, 100% of financial assistance for Ukraine comes from Europe. Most intelligence and military support also comes from Europe. Ukraine knows it can rely on the unwavering support of Europeans.
There should be no dialogue with Russia as long as Vladimir Putin continues to wage an unprovoked war against Ukraine and target civilians with indiscriminate attacks. History has repeatedly shown that Putin responds only to force, not words, promises, or diplomatic overtures. Every missile strike, every train attack, every destroyed school and hospital proves that dialogue without consequences is meaningless. The world cannot afford to sit back and hope for negotiations while Ukrainian lives are being destroyed and entire communities erased. Europe, the United States, and all democratic allies must recognize that appeasement is not a strategy, it is a liability. Ukraine needs unwavering military, financial, and diplomatic support to defend its people and territory. Strength, unity, and decisive action are the only language Putin understands. Anything less will be seen as weakness, emboldening further aggression. It is time to stop wasting words and begin confronting the reality. The survival of Ukraine, the credibility of Europe, and the rule of international law depend on the courage to act firmly and relentlessly. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.